Here we will see understanding session variables. First we'll see what is session. A user's session with his web application begins when he first launched the application in web browser. Users are assigned a unique session ID that identifies them to your application. The session ends when the browser window is closed or when the user has not requested a page in a very long time. The session ID is a 16-character string that is unique to each user. Then we'll see what are session variables. Session variables are special variables that exist only while the user's session with his application is active. Session variables are specific to each visitor to your site. They are used to store user-specific information that needs to be accessed by multiple pages in web application. In browser applications, each request for a page is completely independent of earlier request. If you want subsequent pages to remember, like a user ID that was entered on sign-in page, you can store it in session variable, which can be retrieved later. Once the user has logged off, all session variables are gone. Session variables are commonly used to store information such as user preferences and privileges. Another advantage of using session variable is the values that are not shown in the query string. For this reason, session variables are commonly used to store sensitive information such as current user ID and password. When the session ends, either from the user closing the browser or due to timeout, the session variables are cleared. Different advantages of using session variables are: it stores user states and data to all over the application. Data placed in session state variables can be recalled even after Internet Information Services restarts and worker process restarts. Session data can be retrieved because the data is stored in another process space. Session state can be used in both multi-computer and multi-process configurations. Therefore, it optimizes scalability scenarios. Session state works with the browsers that do not support HTTP cookies. Although session state is most commonly used with cookies to provide user identification facilities to a web application. It provides easy mechanism to implement, and we can store any kind of object. It stores every user data separately, and session is secure and transparent from user because session object is stored on the server. And disadvantages of using session variables are: session state variables stay in memory until they are either removed or replaced, and therefore can be degrade server performance. Session state variables contains block of informations. For this reason, large dataset can adversely affect web server performance as server load increases. Overhead involved in serializing and deserializing session data, because in case of state server and SQL server session mode, we need to serialize the object before store. Session variables are synonymous. So if a user has set his browser not to accept any cookies, your session variables won't work for that particular web server.